Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, there's something pretty special about getting to witness that moment right before a couple of guys become a really big deal. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with, once more, as always. My name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals and pick their brain not only on current projects, but state of the business, how they got started, and so very much more. And if you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, God knows we'd love it if you did, because you're listening right now. You could do that wherever you can find your podcasts, over at Google, Amazon, Spotify, Apple, and you can find every single one of our episodes archived over at the In the Seats YouTube channel. Also, it'd be great if you'd follow us on social media. That would be a lot of fun. You could do that over at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at either at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I say this a lot, but probably most importantly, would you do us the kindness of visiting us over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest movie news, reviews, and all sorts of fun stuff that our hardworking team is cracking away on 24/7, 365. Not because I make them, but because they love it, and I love them for it. But we got a fun one on this one. We are going to be sitting down with a couple of stand-up comics who really have blended a very interesting idea. It's these guys' names are Mike Mildon and Jackson Rowe, and we're talking about For Heaven's Sake, which is a Canadian crime docuseries, but it's also a bit of a comedy, as it follows the search for Harold Heaven, the oldest cold case in Canadian history, who mysteriously disappeared from his remote cabin in Ontario in the winter of 1934. And while local police searched the nearby woods and dredged the lake, Harold was never found or heard from again. It was unceremoniously closed as a likely suicide. 85 years later, his great-great-nephew, Mike, attempts to solve this coldest of cold cases with the help of his extended family and his true crime-obsessed best friend, Jackson. It is really this fascinating blend of true crime and comedy, which is not only streaming as we speak on CBC Gem, but it is launched with our friends to the south in the States on Paramount Plus, which means audiences all across North America are going to get to see this really unique take on not only the true crime series, but documentaries with a little bit of comedy in it too. It's really this fascinating blend of genres, and it mixes up into this perfect little cocktail, which is just so entertaining that I cannot talk about this show enough, which I do recommend you go check out. Like I said, CBC Gem up here in Canada and Paramount Plus for our friends in the States. But we had a fantastic talk with Mike and Jackson, not just about sort of how it got started, the show, but how they got started and sort of the things they learned along the way. And I think we had a pretty interesting talk, which I certainly enjoyed the hell out of, and I think you will too. All right, well, I mean, obviously, first off, man, congratulations on the show. Like, I like, full disclosure, they did send me the screeners, the first couple of episodes, but I marathoned the rest yesterday on Gem, man. I absolutely loved it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, David.
It means the world to us.
Walk me through, obviously this was a family myth, this was a family story, but I mean, walk me through, I guess, sort of the initial drive to be like, wait a minute, this is a story we can tell. We can, like, this is a show, this is a film, this is something. Like, what was the initial idea to sort of document all this?
Yeah, so it started, it's a great question, because it was the moment we got a hold of the police reports that we knew there was a true crime aspect to the whole case, because there was investigative holes and whatnot. And it wasn't until we partnered with Muse Entertainment that basically the day that we met with them, because they saw our comedy sketches prior, and they were like, "Oh, we should do something unscripted together." And we ended up going into their office, and they were like, "Well, we want to do something true crime comedy." And the only thing Jackson and I brought to the meeting was the police reports. And so we brought them out, and we were like, "Well, we want to solve my great great uncle's case, and it was one of those perfect timing things. And from there, it became a bigger conversation of like, well, how do we structure each episode? And we're like, well, we have these theories. Each episode could be a different theory. And then, so we started there, and then we started building and building. And the more we did research, the more that came out from the woodworks, and the more, I guess, the more we could put, the more we could structure it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the more we looked into it, the more material came up that made it seem like there was really some meat on the bone here. Because, when you think about an 87-year-old case, you imagine there's not too much that hasn't already been discovered or already discussed. But we really, the more we looked into it, the more we thought this deserves a deep dive, and we're just the guys to do it.
Well, and I mean, and that's just the fun part of the journey, because I mean, you really did get the sense while watching it all that it was like all you could almost see in both of your faces, like, oh well, there's another episode. Like, oh, we discovered something else. Like when you're putting it all, like when you're going through the motions of it all. Like I'm kind of curious, because like the show has this comedic element to it. Like, was it just a question of you guys trying to be as natural as possible? Because I mean, it was funny, but it wasn't trying to be funny. If you get what I'm saying.
No, that's the best way to put it. We appreciate you saying that. Is it was mystery first, comedy second, and a lot of the times the jokes hit the cutting room floor. So one of the comedies we really wanted to focus on was like found comedy.
Yeah.
Just like the small town is funny in itself. The characters on camera, like myself talking to my family, is already a funny dynamic. And then Jackson and I are comedians, so just naturally we poke fun at each other, and we can't help but like make bits and have fun. So I'm glad that translated for you.
Well, and I mean, I won't spoil it, but I mean, it definitely comes up in a scene in the last episode. You're having this impassioned talk with each other, and then it zooms in on two guys on a paddle boat, and I'm just like, fuck, that's funny.
Right? And that's just a testament to the team we had. Because obviously you couldn't script that moment.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We were planning, or we just sat down to have that real talk with each other. And our DP, Jared Rabb, who's made the whole thing look just amazing, that was his instinct to just zoom in on those guys right at that moment. And man, did it ever pay off. We love that scene too.
He came, so at funny little stories, he went up to the director, Tim, right after. And that was probably me at my most emotional, like the whole journey. And he like whispers to Tim, he's like, I think I might have butchered that scene. But he found gold instead.
Yeah.
When you're going through it all and you're trying to lay it out and structure it, I can imagine, because like you say, you want to do the work, you want to do the investigative parts, but at the same time you have to it felt very conscious for you guys to show the moments where maybe you're stumbling over your own feet and sort of not doing it maybe as effectively as you could. Like, it really was sort of an education almost in how to be an investigator, and sort of showing the screw ups along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was just true. Like, we didn't come in planning to screw up,
Yeah.
Like, we really wanted to do our very best, but like you said, it's there's so much that goes into it being an investigator. There's so much research and stuff that you don't see in the true crime docs, because they cut it all out, because it's not necessarily entertaining. But when it's people that you like and people that you want to follow, like Mike and myself, you don't mind watching the screw ups. You don't mind, because it just makes us feel a little more human and relatable. And there were plenty of screw ups, so I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Now, I mean, for both of you, I mean, I'm kind of curious. Were there ever theories along the way that, I mean, not maybe ones that you had favorites that you hung on to and be a little too long, but also ones that maybe hit the cutting room floor that didn't quite make it to the show? Because I mean, especially as we're watching it all unfold, like, I mean, I have my own personal theory that I like hold on to, but I'm kind of curious, was the journey more of the important thing, or do you think, are there still theories for you guys to hang on to going forward?
Well, yeah, basically I was just going to say that we wanted exactly that, for you to have a theory, for the people that watch to have a theory. And as you see along the way, Jackson and I start to like favor one, and we start to like lean towards one and get caught up in that. And it affects our biases of the information that comes in. There there was actually the alien theory got cut short, definitely in the edit.
Yeah.
That was a sad one. And there's one that we actually haven't brought up that on anything. There was one person who's in the documentary that told us Harold was killed in a bare knuckle brawl in a fight club at the Dominion Hotel, and it was the funniest thing. Like, just by a guy named Hammerhead, and it was just like the craziest theory. And it didn't end up working because he said it happened in the 50s, and like the time
He had his timeline wrong.
Yeah, so but the Fight Club theory made me laugh out loud.
But the alien theory, I think, is the big one that, you know, we really loved looking into it. We talked to experiencers, we talked to mediums, and we really wanted to, you know, not poke fun at the believers and people who actually thought that Harold could be have been abducted. And then, you know, when we cut it all together, it just sort of, it felt like too much of a left turn at the time where we were actually making momentum in the case. So it ended up getting shortened down a lot. But maybe in the DVD extras or something, we can dive into the alien theory a bit more.
Well, and it makes for an interesting dynamic, though, too, especially with you guys having to be up there and I mean, both being comedians, but at the same time, you don't want it to look like you're taking the piss. You have to take it seriously, and you have to take all these stories very seriously in order to really sell it properly.
Yep, it was the tone of the documentary is the number one thing. Just walking that fine line between taking it, you know, giving it the respect it deserves, but also adding just enough levity and enough charm and highlighting the charm of the town and the people involved, that it's you know, it's not just a straight true crime doc, you know, but it is totally walking that tightrope to balance the tone.
How did you both feel, especially just during the process of it all, being like playing in this space where, like, on one end, as documentarians, you're not necessarily familiar with it, but on the other end, you're performers. So there's this, I can imagine there's a pull back and forth, especially when the camera is going to be on you 24/7, in terms of trying to find, like you say, that balance between, okay, am I doing something for camera, or am I doing something, you know, for the investigation, for the story?
Yeah, a lot of it was well, kudos to our director Tim Johnson, who really kind of guided us through that. And sometimes Jackson and I would get carried away with doing bits and really trying to make each other laugh, and then Tim could really hone that in, or just like really direct us properly if he felt in the story weren't I guess just we're getting like navigating that tone, like Jackson said.
And the word we use a lot was the engine. The mystery and the true crime element has to be the engine of the show and the documentary, so that people, you know, will follow along. Because, you know, even if you really, really like Mike and myself, you're not only going to want to watch our goofy bits for so long. So we knew that if it wasn't serving the story, then usually we moved on pretty quick.
For sure. And I mean, and what I love about sort of the documentary form is that it allows for this room to sort of try to do what isn't expected. Because I mean, when you talk to people sort of outside looking in, they think of documentaries being talking heads and facts and whatnot. But this has that, but allows to sort of let it grow on that at the same time. And I'm kind of curious, as performer, like not just performers, but creators in general, how was it for you to sort of play in sort of that weird kind of hybrid space?
It was really fun, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's a little weird, I think, at first, but we were up there for so long, and we had such a great crew that sort of just made everything feel natural, that once we got going, it was really easy. I think, you know, the first few weeks are always a bit tough, and you're finding your footing and deciding exactly how you personally can approach stuff. But it was just a testament to the team and, you know, the whole production, that everyone was comfortable and wasn't afraid to make mistakes or to, you know, do something a little different.
Now, Mike, I'm curious, how was the reaction from the family? Because I mean, in many ways, it felt in the series that the trying was sort of the cathartic and the sort of enjoyable part for all of them, regardless of the outcome.
Exactly. Yeah, they were just excited. I think they, like, one of the things I didn't know is how much of a deep dive I would do into the family history, and how much I would learn along the way and appreciate. But in the back of our minds, I think the older generation knew that was going to happen with looking into the case, so they were excited for that. That was my biggest worry, was the family and respecting their privacy and just like what they were comfortable with and what they were not comfortable with, and navigating all those relationships. Because as you saw, there's like, I don't know, 12 to 15 family members interviewed or something. So it was pretty nerve wracking, but there's such a warmth and comfort that comes across on screen that was actually there. Like Aunt Gwitty did make us cookies for her interview and burnt them, and that kind of stuff you just can't script, and is so great to have access to that.
Yeah. And we got lucky too, so we can't discount a lot of moments like the paddle boat and the burnt cookies and stuff. That just right time, right place.
Yeah.
Do you think you guys could have pulled this off, not being having this not be a personal story? Had you just sort of picked some random cold case and decided to start digging in?
That's come up a lot, honestly, recently. People asking us, "What's next? What do you want to do next?" And we have to think about that, because it's certainly, we wouldn't have been as comfortable approaching it. That's for sure. Could we have done it? I don't know, but having access to Mike's family and them just giving us their blessing was a huge weight off our shoulders. At least for me. I know Mike's still worried about it throughout, but it would be a totally different ballgame with someone else's story. I think we'd love to look into something like that for sure, but it would absolutely be different.
Yeah, definitely, especially with the Harold story. I think, and like you watched all 8 episodes. Some of the things we hone in on and realize about Harold's legacy and where the story kind of leaves off is a complete family element, which is very, very personal and
for sure
cool to me.
But I mean, I also like that you guys got to work with someone like Jay Cheel, who, especially in his previous work, has done these really sort of interesting and compelling deep dives into characters and the subjects, but still not being afraid to sort of give it a bit of a sly wink and a nod, or a bit of a sardonic tone through it all. And I mean, I'm kind of curious, do you guys because I mean, like you say, you're actors, you're comedians. How do you see yourselves sort of going forward? Like, do you think you could even maybe do other documentaries on other subjects, but trying to give it a comedic tone?
Yeah. Well, first, I'm so glad you brought up Jay Cheel, because we love that guy. He's brought such a great just part of the story. So we had one side of things where people were really pushing the mystery and making sure that part of things were entertaining, but he really pushed like the heart of the story and like the characters of Jackson and I, and kind of the journey we were going on. So there was such a nice push and pull of like him bringing it back to what the story's about, and then making sure it's a great true crime. To answer your other question, there is like, we just love good stories, and we're attracted to putting spins on different genres, and that's how this whole project came about. So if this is a success, there is a conversation for Paramount Plus and whoever else, if it's Mike and Jackson solve this next thing, or we would have to go look for that next family or whatever that is, like that great mystery. We joke about a treasure hunt instead of a true crime, because that sounds great. A camp mystery we've talked about, just because sending Jackson and I to a camp for a couple months and trying to get one of those camp stories. I don't know. But yeah, this is definitely a path we want to keep taking, is just the unscripted twist on genres. But true crime is a tough one to find a great story with the kind of access and ability to make fun, or not make fun, but have fun with the genre and with the family tragedy that happened. It's such a tight line to walk.
Now, I mean, what got both of you into this business? Because I mean, I can imagine sort of making the true crime yet comedic style doc isn't necessarily, like you say at the beginning, this isn't the project you could have planned. You kind of tripped into it, and it really worked. It ended up working quite well.
Right.
Like, what for both of you was sort of the kickoff to sort of get into this business in whatever shape or form?
Well, we met at Second City taking improv classes, and I think we both just really love comedy, love performing. We've done all sorts of. We've both done stand up and improv and sketch for a long time now, and it's just what we've loved to do. I know Mike can speak for himself, but for me, it's just always been the dream, to work in comedy and filmmaking in one form or another. And so, stumbling into something as awesome as this is just a dream come true. Now you speak for yourself.
Yeah. I'm just, I think I told Jackson this the other day, but I didn't think this would be our first like big project. It's because like right before we met with Muse with the police reports and everything, we were pitching scripted series to like CBC and Bell and whatnot. But this is the one that hit, and I don't know. I even told my family, I was like, I don't know if I'll ever make something as personal as this project, because it's just,
how could you? Really?
Yeah, I'm so proud of it on so many levels, and to have this be our like first bigger long form project is a feat for us at least, and it makes it nervous. It makes me nervous thinking about like trying to
trying to one up it.
Yeah, trying to one up.
I think the industry is just evolving too, so it's not like you have to fit into one box of being like, oh, you're the true crime guys or you're the documentary guys. Especially with us, like we would love to, pursue a bunch of different things, and that's why we got into what drew us to comedy in the first place. Is that it's not just performing on stage; it's a way of life, kind of.
No, and you know what? I mean, I think you're right, because this business is evolving. And I mean, if you had tried to pitch this 10 years ago, this would have been the project that, maybe you'd have gotten to make after you were a little more established, yada, yada, yada. But given the media landscape, there is such a wide demand for sort of different content and interesting content. And this really does kind of fit into that mold so perfectly. And I mean, it's a beautiful thing to see. And I'm just to put a bow on this, like going forward, like, can you even sort of hope for a goal for the show or predict where you want to go next with sort of any other ideas? Or are you just kind of trying to sort of live in the moment of how well the show is being received so far?
To comment on the point you made before about it was actually surprising that every single person we pitched in the States, except for Paramount Plus, said this was too risky and they could never make this. So even though like everyone loved the pitch and loved the story, but they were all just like, we could never make this. So even today, it was hard to get this one off the ground because it was such an interesting tonal balance. But the good thing is, like you said, is there is some positive reception right now. Like we are getting some better reviews, and that just helps Paramount Plus believe in the show more and believe in this tone that we're striking. So for what's next, we've kept our head down. Like we literally locked episode 8 maybe 2 weeks ago.
Oh wow!
And,
okay.
Yeah, so we were like, our heads have been down, just trying to like get this and be very nitpicky about everything, like moving a little shots and trying to make all the changes we could until the last possible moment. So now Jackson and I are looking up and talking to you and being like, oh yeah, what is next? I guess we'll have to see. Well, we are just enjoying people watching it, and like yourself enjoying it, which is so great.
Yeah, I think what's next is important, but there's no point in making something if you can't enjoy it a little bit, like we want to do both. The answer is both. And so far so good, and people seem to really like it. And we've been it's nerve-wracking putting something out in the world that you worked on for over 2 years, but it's so far so good. Yeah.
And you know what? I mean, I think you guys really are a testament to the fact that you can get 100 no's, but you only need one yes. And a yes produces something like For Heaven's Sake. And I mean, this is a fantastic ride. And I just want to say congratulations to you both. And man, I hope it does great. And I can't talk about it enough, man. Honestly, man, this was a hell of a fun ride. Congratulations again to you both, because I love this mashing up of styles and trying to make something different and unique. And I think you guys have done that and then some.
Thank you, David. That's very kind of you. We appreciate it.
We really appreciate it. Thanks for covering it, because the more eyeballs we can get on it is just great. So Thank you so much.
It's an important thing. I mean, congratulations again, guys, and thanks for the time today.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.